Hey, this is Sarah Parker, Public Insurance Adjuster, and I am here to share a resource with you. This is something that a lot of property insurance professionals have no idea exists. It's actually a database of most of the consumer complaints against insurers in the United States. So now you would think that it would be called something like a complaint database, but it's actually called the Consumer Information Source. This is from the NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. If you don't know who they are, we do have a full course on breaking down the NAIC, all of their committees, and how they affect legislation across the United States for property insurance at the claim cohort as an on-demand course, so definitely check that out. But yes, they are a professional association of insurance commissioners. And just for a little bit of background, property insurance in the United States is regulated state by state. And in order to kind of harmonize a lot of the laws and legislative things and rules that are made, the NAIC comes together and makes model laws and things. And this specific tool here is really interesting because they take complaint data from most states, from consumers against insurers and also other sources, and they aggregate them into this lookup tool. And this information is going to be useful to different people for different reasons. If you work for a property insurer, this information is going to have information about your company as well as your competitors. If you are a policyholder advocate, say a public insurance adjuster or an attorney that works with policyholders, that information is going to take on a different meaning. But as well as nonprofit advocates and legislators and regulators, this information has a different context for them. So depending on your role, this is going to mean different things for you. So let's dive into the tool. So this listing right here is in a tool called the Claim.Directory, which is a vetted directory of resources for property insurance claims professionals. So you can find this and hundreds of other tools there. But let's dig in to the Consumer Insurance Search results. All right, first I'm going to show you how to do a lookup, and then I'm going to show you how to view some of the information and what it means in some of that context for you. So the first thing to know about this tool is that not every state participates in sending their complaint information to the NAIC. Most do, but not all. It's still going to be a lot of excellent data for people to use. Another thing to understand is that this is sorted by underwriting company. Now, a lot of us are familiar with, the trade name of an insurance company, like we'll just use an example here. American Family Insurance would be one trade name for a company, but the underwriting company that actually provides the coverage could be named something else, like, American Family Indemnity Company or something like that. Just as an example. So when we jump in, I'll use State Farm for this example, and then I'm going to say, let's do California. So as you can see, it shows us some interesting information. For one, it shows the underwriting companies. And remember, we talked about how the trade name of a company is different from your underwriting company. So these are insurers that are admitted into California. And so they'll show you where they're licensed in. They'll show you what the underwriting name is, their NAIC company code. So each underwriting company has a specific code with the NAIC for categorization. And then it also shows the types of insurance that they write. So we've got aircraft, auto, commercial auto, earthquake, flood, homeowners for this one right here for State Farm, Fire and Casualty Company, and so on and so forth. So that'll give you some basic information about the company there. Again, the relevance and context of this information is really going to shift depending on what your role is and why you're looking up this information as a professional or a consumer. So here we're going to click on report options, and we get a few different options here in the drop down. So there are different ways that they deliver this information. The first one is there's a complaint code report, which actually talks a little bit about what the complaint is about, what it applies to, who it was sent in by. Then there's also by state, the different reports by state, trends, a financial overview, a licensing report, and some other interesting information. So we'll jump into one of those examples right now. All right, so if you click on one of those options, it brings you to this page. And when you jump in, just know that these results right here, where it shows results by complaint code and then those other options, those are the same options that were available on the other page. So you can seamlessly navigate within your selection to see more data. So here, I'm not going to dig too much into specifics for State Farm. I'm not trying to pick on State State Farm here. I'm just using a common example for a very large insurer. This is the complaint code view of the data. So it shows here that the complaint code for homeowners has this many. And then it breaks it down by additional categories like windstorm. I believe hail is part of windstorm. So it kind of goes into some specific things, health insurance, commercial multi-peril. So you can kind of dig in and see what information is relevant to you and what you want to know. Then you can further filter this information as well. So if you want to see complaints for a specific state, you can do that. You can also see complaints by the type of coverage, the reason for the complaint, and then the disposition. Disposition is interesting. And then you can also see who it was submitted by. So you can see if complaints were submitted by a beneficiary, a court, a covered person, which I'm sure is a policyholder or a claimant. Insurance companies can actually submit complaints as well. Legislator, military personnel, other producer, provider, service provider. There's a lot of categories of who complaints are submitted by, and that's very important. We do have a course in Claim Cohort that covers writing effective and clear state complaints. And that type of information, again, gets reflected in the data that is publicly available. So that's why that's important. So check that out for sure. And then it shows the NAIC company code, and then you can also filter by year. And here we are going to dig into the results by state. So this gives you kind of like an interactive map where you can check things out. Again, this is just one underwriter, so it's not necessarily all of this carrier. So if you needed more comprehensive data, you would have to actually go and aggregate that data yourself, since it is by underwriter, not by trade name. And here as well, you can filter by year, shows the NAIC company code, and then shows the number of complaints by state. And again, it's got a lot of filters. So I'll let you guys dig through and see the information you want to see for your role and relevance. And then this visualization is quite interesting. This is complaint index rather than complaint code. So complaint code shows a lot of information about what the complaint was about, what the disposition was, who it was sent in by, all of that. But this is the complaint index report, which shows us some interesting information. Again, relevance for this totally dependent on your role in the insurance industry. So here it shows this underwriting company's share of complaints in the US market, their total number of complaints, and then it also goes on to show their annual premium across the United States, and then their share of premiums across the United States. So it's just, again, some really interesting information and insights here. And then you can also filter here by year, and then you can also filter by type of insurance. So let's say you wanted to check out homeowner, for example. You can click on that. It's going to change the results. Now, there is some financial data they give, and there are some terms in using this data. So it's really important to understand that this is all self-reported. It's not necessarily information that is guaranteed. So take that into account when using this. I want you guys to know that this information is available. And then here, results by licensing. This breaks down a map of licensing and then also lines of insurance. So lots of fascinating information there. I felt it was important to make you aware of this tool and this wonderful resource and information provided by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. Thank you for joining me in this brief walkthrough of this tool. And if you'd like more tools and resources like this, be sure to subscribe to the Claim.Directory, which is resources for property insurance professionals, and consider joining Claim Cohort, a private professional platform with on-demand education for claim artisans. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.